Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Crossed Over Celebrity channel. My name is Tina Ducharme, and I team up with a celebrity that has crossed over to the other side. I channel their energy, and I bring forward messages that they would like to share with you. These videos, I would like to let everybody know are timeless. If you feel drawn to one, there's most likely a message in it personally for you that the celebrities are trying to bring forth and share with you and share with the collective as well. So I am very honored to team up with the funniest motivational speaker that it will probably work with. I'm honored that he came through. I have a kinship with Chris Farley, and because he grew up in the Wisconsin area. I live in Wisconsin. I grew up in Michigan. However, he did vacation up near where I grew up. So, I mean, he kind of ran in the same circles as when I was growing up. So like I said, I feel a special kinship to him. And so I was so excited that he wanted to come through and share a little bit of his story with you. We'll look at a soul contract and see kind of what was going on there. He died very young at the age of 33, very similar to somebody that he idolized, John Belushi. So if you didn't know much about Chris Farley, he was on Saturday Night Live, and he did many movies like Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, those, iconic, hilarious, he just was such a gift, such a talented young man, and was very sad that he transitioned so early. And so what had been coming through when Chris was coming through the past few days and the past actually week it's been, was what kept coming up is kind of this unfinished symphony. What he wants to get across to people is, don't die. This is a Wayne Dyer thing that I had heard years ago when I was listening to Wayne Dyer, who was considered the father of motivation. And he would say, don't die with the music still inside you. And there was a lot of music left inside Chris. There were a lot of stuff, a lot of things he was refusing to acknowledge. He takes full responsibility for what happened to him. And he wants to thank everybody who continued to try to help him get help and to work with him. They're very open with him on Saturday Night Live. A lot of his friends were really pushing him to get the help that he needed, and he was not recognizing that and not, taking that enough to heart. We'll talk a little bit about in his charts and where those blind spots can come up for us, as we all struggle, with those types of things. He is working on those issues still on the other side. And like I said, he is so very funny, a lot of trickster energy going on, stuff falling down, and to this week, and just really kind of weird stuff going on. And I know that's him just kind of having a laugh with me and trying to get me to, I can be very serious sometimes, to loosen up a little bit and remember how important laughter is. So this week I really tried to get back to listening to comedians that I love, maybe watching a show on TV, and so that I can laugh. There's always, we're all struggling with problems, and I'm no different than anyone else. And we want to be sure that we're not taking life too seriously, that we're still enjoying ourselves. And because that ego likes to get it, is attached to suffering, and it likes to keep you down in these problems that really do not have, if you really take that step back and be that observer in your life, they really don't hold much water. So he also wants to bring forward, be careful about who you idolize. And why is that important? Because John Belushi was like his idol, and he talked about the fact that he was kind of mimicking his life after him. And John Belushi also died at age 33. So he's saying, be very cautious and be very careful about who you're idolizing in your life, recognizing people's talents, but also recognizing their flaws, because we all have talents and we all have flaws. And you're not meant to follow anyone's path but your own. And he wanted for me to highlight that as well. It's great to have fun. Towards when he was really struggling, he said it's something that can't be forced. And there was a lot of his stuff that was out there just before he died. And a lot of that people were kind enough to pull off the airwaves, because it was all forced and it was not really him, you know, when we'll talk about addictions and what is going on there for him. But he's very appreciative of that, because that's not how he wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be remembered for making people laugh. And he was a huge, big teddy bear, right? He just exudes that when he comes in. He comes in and he's got this bounding energy, this energy that goes on for miles and is so expansive. And so he came through with that sort of energy, and I really resonated with that. It's very uplifting. He's that very uplifting person. But he says, again, I talk about signs a lot in these videos, and he said, watch what's going on in your life, even if it's the name of the company you work for, or a certain contract, or just watch certain things, because it really tells you a lot about what's going on. You know, when he talks about like being in the black shape, how he really, at that time in his life, was really feeling like the outsider, and was grappling with a lot of unworthiness, and always that stigma of trying to fit in, you know, and trying to get people to like you. And you know, Almost Heroes was also a you know, where he wanted to be like a hero, but he never considered himself like a role model, or which he recognizes now that we all can lead our lives, not to, you know, as he says, you know, the motivational speaker, not forcefully, but just showing by example and leading with that. And so he talked a little bit about that. What he had brought me to a deep detox and balancing program that he wished that he would have fallen into in this particular. So if you're struggling with a lot of the same numbers as Chris, or you're struggling with a lot of same addictions and things going on in your life, he wanted to highlight this Ayurvedic treatment that Deepak Chopra's book, The Perfect Health, apparently has this in. I have not read the book. Chris was bringing this through to my attention. So I do plan actually on reading that book as well, because since he brought it up, I think would be very beneficial. I'll put the description of it and maybe a link in the description box to that below. So I also would like you to please subscribe to the channel. It's free. It is just, you know, so that you can keep getting more videos like this if you like hearing from the celebrities. And it also will help to grow the channel as we're trying to get these messages out to people and sharing these wonderful messages, and again, ways that we can tackle some of these problems, or trying to bring through very concrete examples and very simple things that we can do to help ourselves grow and to overcome the challenges in our own lives. So I appreciate them teaming up with me to help do this. And please like the video if you do, because that also helps to grow the channel as well. I will put all of my information if you're interested in having your own reading for a soul contract, or any type of want to get more into the divine healing. So I'll put my information in the description box below as well. And so I will share my screen here. And let's bring up Chris's chart here. So this is Chris. Hey, I know, I get so, he's so like this all the time. And I love that about him. And I love this picture because it's so boyish, that mischievous charm that he just exuded in his life. And this picture, I thought, really captured his great charisma that he had. So it's one thing that he was blessed with, and that he was, you know, he struggled with a lot of unworthiness, but we'll talk a little bit about that in a soul chart, but still had charisma, and that does come from numbers in your chart and how they kind of work together to make you very magnetic. And so I also put introductory video in the description box below to go if you want to learn more about how I put the charts together, how they come about, and a little bit of the background on the soul contract, where that came from, and how these charts work a little bit more. I want to just specifically start going into the numbers in these videos to not waste time going over the same type of stuff. And so I'm going to just start as I was having the channeling with Chris before the session, we kind of went through the numbers as he wanted to present them. So I will be talking about them and moving around. So let me just highlight my mouse so you can kind of see where I'm at. So he wanted to start right away with that physical karma, because karma is our opportunities for growth. These are things you're meant to, that you're going to get a lot of the negative aspects of in your lifetime, but it's meant for you to overcome them. And what comes with a 6 and physical karma is addictions. And we all know that Chris Farley, that's no big secret, struggled with addictions, but it goes a little deeper than that for him, because it wasn't just an addiction to drug, it was food, it was things that were really comforting to him, and that he was using as a crutch. And he is wanted to say that we don't need crutches, that that's an illusion again of that ego. And so if you're struggling with addictions, you probably have a 6 somewhere in your chart, but how severe it is does depend on some of the other numbers. And we know it was pretty severe for him. I mean, he does have this 22-4, even though it's in his talents, this can be a very challenging number. And the 10-1 also can be this is about balance, and can also be a very tricky number. So this is a very difficult chart in its combinations for him to work through. So the 6s, definitely, this is about him overcoming those addictions. And it's also about him learning how to focus and become creative. So it's really about him getting grounded, you know, not being so scattered all over the place. I mean, you could see that in his energy sometimes being scattered. And so we also wanted to talk about 7s, and on the other side of his, you know, we have a physical and a spiritual side to our charts. And the 7s are all about, that's where he's very much a magnet for people. The 7s are very magnetic, and they draw people to them. And it's all about heart healing and opening up the heart. And, you know, the more he opens up the heart, the more that people are drawn to him. And it's about groups too, him learning how to deal with large groups and learning how to facilitate groups and being part of that creative, magnetic unite that catalyzes people into action. So with 7s in karma, he would struggle with some indecisiveness. You know, I think he struggled with deciding which movies he should do and things like that. And that's very much a part of the 7s. So he would talk to other people about what he should do instead of really listening, making sure it felt right for him and trusting his intuition. And so the 7s also, they can make great actors, you know, comedians, anything, and because they also can be a little objective, and which means they kind of shut off that emotional center in order to become their character and to kind of play these facades. And he did a great job, of getting into different characters. Not so much a range of emotions for him. He was a little blocked with that, as we could see. But he always had this high energy and brought that through his characters. So this number is also about learning how to accept that dark. We all have, like I said, talents, and we all have a dark side. And this is about learning to accept that dark side, our weaknesses, our little ego-driven things, that we're trying to do. And it's really about accepting that. And that's sevens in karma can be very difficult in that respect, because people don't want to look at the dark side of themselves. It's an illusion, this fear of not wanting to be seen, not letting people see who you really are because you don't feel that you will be loved. And so it all comes back to that ego trying to protect you and keep you down. So again, we talked about this, even though this is in talents, we were seeing a lot of the negative sides playing out for Chris in his life. 22-4 is all about the oral expression. So people with that, you usually see that they have this unique way of vocalizing their talents. And as he did, just the way he changed his voice. And, Matt, he played this character, Matt Foley, the motivational speaker on Saturday Night Live, which was one of my favorites. And it's hilarious if you get a chance to look that up. It's just wonderful to watch. And then he played the lunch lady. And we'll talk a little bit about that feminine side, the lunch lady with Adam Sandler. I mean, just some great fun, just really laughable. And then Patrick Swayze as well. I did a video about him, and he had the Chippendale Dancers, just an absolute hysterical vocal oral expression, but wonderful. He had this wonderful movement as well about him. He was very energetic, like I said, and just so this is all about a completion, the Jupiter energy, about expansion, which he did. He was really expanding his career. He was always in this kind of expansive mode, and that's not a pun on his size, the physical size, although it could have played into it a little bit with him keeping it light, because this 22-4 also is called, the 22 is called the ugliness to beauty number. So it's about how people feel on the inside. And he really did not feel good about himself and his size. He felt very ugly. And so this was part for him to learn how to go a little deeper with that. This was a lesson. It's a very hard lesson, but a lesson that he was meant to learn about what true beauty is, what worthiness is. And it's not how you look or your size. That is not at all what this, we are very superficial in our society, and this is not at all what this journey is about. So this led him to having a lot of negative self-judgment. And this played out for him in a very, very toxic way, in very destructive behavior. And that, like I said, this 22-4 can be a very difficult number. And so the positive side of this was, of course, this great expansion he had in his life, trust in the flow of abundance. So that he trusted things would come to him. But he was very optimistic. He had this great capacity for remembering. That's part of this talent aspect. And that helped him to really expand himself and in his career. And so his other talent, the 13-4, is a very, very feminine energy. And this is also a magnetic number. Farrah Fawcett had this number. I did a reading on her. And this is that divine feminine. And he has this, even if you look at him in his picture right there, he has this very soft, very feminine aspect. And we all have a masculine and a feminine side. I'm not picking on him. And he's got that here in his goals which is the 10-1, which is a more masculine, and the 1 here, and then the 13 is all about the feminine. And so, you know, he played the lunch lady, he had that feminine, but what the negative component of this for him would be, men are not, it's hard for them to be very compassionate. He was very, this huge teddy bear, let me tell you, this soft, wonderful, compassionate energy. And it's just not revered in our culture for men. And like he played, I guess, rugby or whatever, which is totally against this chart at all, about him being this tough kind of sports. That's all he's saying. That was all a bunch of BS just to try to fit in, because again, men are revered for this nurturing and ability and these gifts that he was carrying. So, you know, this is unity consciousness, and this is about sharing and giving and being humanitarian, which he gave a lot. People did not know that, but he was donating his time to, he would go play cards and do things at the retirement homes. And he was doing a lot of these charity things, and nobody knew that he was doing it. And that was, you know, these 2 numbers here in his talents are all about this wonderful giving, sharing energy. And he was exhibiting those traits. So, and this 10-1 here is all about balance. So in his physical goals, he was meant to strive to come into balance. And he was in and out of rehab, tried many different things, but he was lacking this commitment. And that was where he was just struggling. And this can come from this 22-4, you know, just not being able to commit, not wanting to, you know, do the right thing, to lead by example. And this has a lot of this unconscious in this number, kind of, you know, the negative side is you really get out of balance, which he was, because you're supposed to, by getting out of balance, you're supposed to understand, learn the lesson of how important it is to be in balance, and how good that feels when you're healthy and things are going right and your work life is in balance, and those types of things. So when you have a 10-1 in physical goals, it really is about service. It's not really like a lot of people in physical goals will have something in there that will, you know, push them to be a researcher or a scientist or things like that. When you have a 10-1 in physical goals, it's hard for people to decide on a career, because it's really about your service and your expression in society. And that can be so many things. So he found his niche, I think, with having this number, with his great, you know, finding the humor, but the disempowering, you know, this 1, which is a very masculine energy, can be very disempowering from the masculine side. So I just wonder, this relationship, it brings up, probably these 2 numbers brings up his, you know, these relationships with our parents, the men and the female, the male and female side. Doesn't have to be a man woman. If you're if the person is more in their masculine than their feminine, you know, this is disempowered from the masculine, but it could be a woman who is heavy in her masculine side. Anyways, what I was getting from Chris, though, it was this deep desire for approval. Again, these larger, you know, he had, I think, 3 brothers, maybe 3 brothers and a sister. I'm sorry, I can't remember just offhand what that was for sure. But trying to get attention, trying to fight, a little bit of competitiveness for love. And that I grew up in a big Catholic family. He was a Catholic. And so it can be very conservative, and nothing against his parents or his family at all. That's not what we're talking about, but this need for approval, this deep need to get that approval from mom and dad, and then falling into these bad habits and feeling those lower emotions, shame and guilt, and having this perpetual trauma bonding thing going on, which was going on for him, that he was not conscious of. And so that can be very difficult to break because you get also addicted to those lower emotions. And when you're doing drugs, and I've mentioned this before in some of the other videos with the musicians who were heavily into the drug alcohol, when you're playing with those negative energies, it brings a lot of negative thoughts and a lot of negative entities, they call them, that feed off of those thoughts, because everything is energy and it's nothing to be afraid of. We all have power over that if we so choose to. But when you're doing drugs and alcohol, you're basically opening up holes in your aura and your, what I would call the holographic matrix, to allow those negative things to kind of mess with you. And so again, that's why we end up in a situation where somebody dies of a drug overdose. Not uncommon to have 9s in goals and seeing this happen, because 9s are a very powerful number. They're the most powerful number. It's a dragon energy. It is about learning how to use your power to create and to use it properly. So you can be in disempowering situations, but you can also be, as we have, self-destructive. So we've got evasion here. A negative side of this divine feminine is evading your deepest needs, not nurturing yourself. The 22-4 can also be almost emotionally disturbing energies if you're way too much into the negative. And then this can be it can be destructive of other people. He was not inclined to be like that. So he would be more one who would internalize it and be self-destructive in the inner world. He was way too much of this, having these 2-13-4s of a unity consciousness, to take all that negativity and project it onto others. He was really internalizing, and he was in deep. 22-4s can be in most severe pain, and he wants to know, he was blinders on, the light, he could not see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's almost a suicidal thing. It's so self-destructive. And I'm not saying he committed suicide. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just this perpetuating. It's not going to end well unless you really get a solid awakening. But when you're mixing all of those chemicals and things, it's just, again, it allows other thought forms and entities to mess with you. So you're just so out of balance that again, it's all things that he chose to experience. And his soul destiny was overall to learn how to share that unity consciousness. And this number gives you great expansion in your goals, which helped him tremendously get to do Saturday Night Live and get to be the wonderful, lovable teddy bear and really be that person that we just, this great genius talent. He didn't recognize it, but we recognize it. And so I'm going to stop sharing the screen because Chris would like me to pull some cards and see what comes up for him. He has more to share here. So I always like to see what he would like to say with the viewers. So the first thing I'm being drawn to is the Wisdom Oracle. And so number 19 is coming out, and that is flexible. So we know he was physically very flexible, correct? Very, very much so in his, he had great skills, physical skills, but he's talking more about, it's not just the flexibility of the body, it's the flexibility of the mind as well. So, he wants to make sure that you understand that this is, again, going deeper, being flexible with what's going on in your life and not getting caught up in just one way to do something. Right now, it's time for some flexibility in how you are presenting yourself, how you are looking at things. he wants to really stress that. So the next, I'm being drawn to work your light. So let's see what else comes up. Thank you, Chris, for that. And then we're getting answer the call. What is your soul calling you to do? And again, my light just went out. It's funny that that is coming up. But so this is answer the call. Let's go in here and read about answer the call. So your guidance is divinely guided. You are being called to answer the call of your soul. It might be scary. It might not make sense. But if you trust your soul's yearning, you will live a life beyond what your mind could possibly imagine. Answering your soul's calling is not a one-time, rather a lifelong dance. Deep down, you already know what you long for, what your soul yearns for. Whatever you are called to do, that is your calling. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for permission. Just say yes. Most people are waiting for a step-by-step plan before they take the first step, but intuition doesn't work like that. It takes faith and courage to answer the calls of your soul, and that's why most people don't do it. But you are not most people. You are in exactly the right place to answer your calling now. You don't need to know the whole plan. You don't even know where it's leading. You just need to take the next step. No one has ever had the complete, perfect plan. Chris didn't have it. It was one day at a time, followed one lead and came upon something else. And that's how it falls into place when you know he was following his true calling. It's just some of these other things that pull you out of alignment I talk so much about, then that causes the havoc. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. And you do not need anyone's permission. So sometimes the more resistance we have around answering a soul calling, the more important it is to our soul's growth. So he had a lot of resistance, but he was doing what a soul, making people laugh. He was helping people when he wasn't doing those things. So it was all about service for him. He was a service soul. And so this wonderful card came from the Secret Language of Light. And so he wants to remind us that there is only light. So let's see this is a beautiful card. And this is somebody meditating and their crown chakra is going up to source. Beautiful. So let's see what he's wanting to get at with this little card here. So darkness is just an absence of light, like my light going out right there. Light is sought after and extraordinary. We seek clarity of light, a lightness of being and light bulb moments. Light bypasses the analytical mind and takes us straight into loving wisdom. It is time for you to step into your shining light. Be illuminated. Let light in. He had this great, how much energy around him, light around him when he was really in his element, when he was really doing what he loved. Today is the day to release any disturbances to your energy. Happiness will come naturally unless you do something to prevent it from happening. Release all that is stopping happiness from flowing into your world, and it will appear before you. It seems too easy, but it is really that simple. Until you realize this, you remain connected to the belief that struggle is a required, perhaps more respected, lesson-laden path. We often take on the belief that if we struggle, others will think more of us and we will appreciate things more. When you go against your soul, you move away from brightness. The darkness is a sign it is time to feel your way back into your heart and soul. And so Here's some steps that he's wanting me to talk about, little things that you can do. So inspired reflections and action. So greet the sun each day. Breathe the particles of sunlight into your chest to lighten the load of your heart. He had those sevens in karma, all about the healing the heart. Take deep breaths in and out. Imagine your breath is filled with a kind of calm and peace. Each breath relaxes you more and more. Go through your clothes and shoes and let go of anything you have not worn for a few years or no longer gives you joy. Draw or write a story you often tell that makes you feel sad, bad, or mad. Then ask yourself who you would be without this story. Draw or write a new story that makes you feel glad, great, or at peace. And that was a wonderful way he said that, how you could get in touch with your emotions. So that's wonderful advice. I will put all of these cards that we pull in the description box below as well. And so I'm being drawn to Wisdom of the Hidden Realms. Ooh, the Hidden Realms. Whoop. We got here. Okay, got a few that popped out, so I'm going to take them all. I asked him if he wants them all, and I got a big yes. So, the hungry ghost. This is what I talked about earlier. Obsessions, scarcity, consciousness, and attachment. That addiction. So, and then we have the river queen. Flow, letting go, natural movement. And you could see how great movement he had when he was in his element and he was following what he was, just enjoying what he was doing. No issues there at all. And how important it is to get in with the flow, that trusting in the flow of the universe. That's in his 4s in his chart. The altar priestess. Preparation, prayer, and sacred ritual. So this is about that disciplining and finding a ritual or a practice that serves you. So something that gets you in the inner. It's really super important. Preparation is it kind of keeps you on track, not flying by the seat of your pants all the time. Not that following your intuition is bad. It's a little bit of that balance and that 10-1 in his chart of doing both. So these were all wonderful cards. And so the next one is the sacred destiny that he would like to pull upon. And so again, 2 cards. He has a lot to say. Chris is a very, and I like that, like I said, that expansive energy, and he has a lot he wants to say to everybody. He's saying, I'm getting this opportunity and I'm not going to blow it here. And I love this card, this beautiful polar bear, leadership. And this is what he is talking about, leading by example, not following another's path. Looking, it's okay to look up to those people, but be very conscientious of what their skills are and also their dark side. Again, him looking up to Belushi wasn't meant for him to follow that same exact path. That was meant for him to learn from that, from the negative as well as the positive. So again, counting on your own leadership skills, leading yourself. And so then wonders, always look into the wonders of the world. I love this, the crystal. So being like that, he was such a child, right? Being a child though, always wondering, always having fun, laughing at the simplest things. That's true joy. You could feel that he did do a good job of those, of playing and things that were lacking, that wonder about life. That, I mean, he was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm on Saturday Night Live. I can't believe I'm doing this movie. That wonder is so important for manifestation. It's just really, really, really important. And so I wanted to do the Kyle Gray Keepers of the Light because I know he was religious, or he was raised Irish Catholic, I believe. And so this is the Holy Spirit came through. Expect miracles. You expect miracles, they will happen. It's again finding that. Remember that only love is real. Miracles will occur naturally. Spirit has your back. We are the ones. Miracles are supposed to be normal. We're the ones with our limiting beliefs that we can choose to believe in lack and that nothing happened, that miracles are a scarcity, that they don't exist, or we can believe that miracles exist, that they're the norm. So it's your choice. It's again, your belief system is really, really important. And again, you know, we see a lot of blue, the bulk, and that's all about the throat chakra. So I'm feeling that, you know, it's really time, and see how my throat, all of a sudden I can't talk. So that tells me he wants to tell you that it's really important to be speaking your truth, not backing down, standing your ground in a positive way. This isn't about bullying. We see a lot of that going on right now. But it's okay to listen and then speak your truth and give others time to respond and not get too worked up in changing other people's perspectives. That we can get caught up in our own ego as to what we think is right or wrong. It's really about listening, expecting good things to happen. And they did for him. A lot of good things happened for him. He's so grateful of that. So we're going to the one of my favorites that I work with a lot, Archangel Metatron Self-Mastery. I work with his energy. I call him a he because he seems to have more masculine energy. I know angels aren't necessarily male or female, but he feels more masculine to me. And so priorities, building blocks for life came through. 52, that's adds up to a 7 in karma. And Chris would like to say, priorities, you have to make yourself a priority. You have to make your dreams a priority. And it's not about pleasing others. It's about just finding joy in the work you're doing, and that will come, you know, he sees that now from a different perspective, that, you know, wanting people to like him and thinking he had to go over the top a lot of the times for that. And he really didn't need to do that. But again, he recognizes now his great talents, that he was maybe undervaluing himself and again, evading those deepest needs. So it's very important to set priorities for self-care, for meditation, because you have nothing to give anyone else if you are not taking care of yourself first. So this is a self-love message. So, and starting those building blocks for your dreams and your passions, one step at a time, building a solid foundation so it doesn't crumble underneath you. So we're going to end this session with the mantra from the Metcon Healing. So this is a healing mantra that we could all use right now. Chris, from you, please share with us what you think would be the best. So he would like to bring through blue card again, that vocal, the 22-4, the vocal expression, invoking self-realization. And so this mantra, and we're going to say it 3 times, Chris, so get ready. I always tell the viewers, please do it 3 times with me. So here, I'll hold it up. I don't know how good, like I said, this camera doesn't focus in very well, but it says, each breath confirms how awake I already am. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. And then I like to go to the book, Self-Realization. That kind of just does such a wonderful job of explaining all of these wonderful healing mantras. Here we go. So self-realization is a spontaneous remembrance of your interconnection to all that is. You are willing to embrace your individuality as a unique expression of source in physical form. By aligning with the breath, you see that while you appear to be a person, it is the universe that breathes everything into existence. This mantra is ideal for reducing stress, managing pain, and relaxing the nervous system. So let's say it. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. It is kind of relaxing when I say that. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. Each breath confirms how awake I already am. And so, Chris, any last words from that great motivational speaker that you are? He's saying we can all be our own motivational speaker. It's up to us to motivate ourselves, to make the changes necessary to live our best life and to overcome the patterns that we see going on, the ones we don't want to admit to, but the ones that we see that are really happening. But he says, okay, to look up your favorite motivational speaker, to do mantras in the morning. He's saying he absolutely thinks it's helpful. Anything that uplifts you, whether it's music, like for me, it's comedians too. I like to listen to them, and music as well is very uplifting. And I do, I listen to Abraham Hicks, channels Abraham, and does a wonderful job of explaining your vibrational set points and how, to try to manage those and how important it is. So he's saying to definitely start some type of a practice, and that you will be forever the better for it. Always takes about a month. So always give yourself a month with any new type of practice as well. So he's saying that was good. He thanks everybody. He was so honored to have the time he did have here, and that he's so appreciative to everyone who supports him, who's still supporting him, and people that still are interviews about him. They say such wonderful things, and he's so grateful for that, of all the positivity out there about him, even though he was going through some very dark stuff. And so he's so grateful for those great friends of his and his brothers and his family. And he's looking after them on the other side. So with that, again, please like, share, and subscribe, and take care. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for being here.